Hey everyone, and welcome. So, maybe you're looking for a really great topic for your next book club, or maybe you just want to get a handle on where our world is actually headed. Well, you have come to the right place. Today, we're going to dive into a forecast from IBM Technology that maps out 8 key AI trends that are really set to redefine our world by 2026. Let's get into it. Look, trying to predict the future, it's always a bit of a gamble, right? But our source for this explainer, IBM Technology, they have a pretty solid track record. And I love how they put it themselves. They take a stab at this every year with some success. That mix of deep expertise and just a little bit of humility gives us a really credible and grounded look at what's just around the corner. So, what's at the heart of all these predictions? It really boils down to one huge, game-changing question. What happens when the AI we use every day stops being a passive tool, like a calculator, and starts becoming an active teammate, one that can plan and act and even collaborate with us? To unpack that, we're going to look at it like a 3-act play. Okay, so let's start with Act 1, the new AI workforce. This is all about a massive shift. AI is graduating from just thinking about stuff, processing information, to actually doing stuff. It's learning to take real action, not just in the digital world, but in the physical world too. First up, we've got this idea called multi-agent orchestration. And what's so cool about this is it's basically like building a super efficient human team, but with AI. So instead of one giant AI trying to do everything, you get this coordinated group. You've got your planner, who's like the project manager, breaking a big goal down into smaller, manageable tasks. Then you have your workers. These are specialized agents. One might be a coding genius, another is a pro at pulling data, and this might be the most important part, you have the critic, whose entire job is to check the work and flag any issues. This kind of teamwork makes the whole system way more powerful and able to tackle some seriously complex problems. So if you take that idea of an AI team, it naturally leads us to trend number 2. The rise of a full-on digital labor workforce. We're not just talking about one-off tasks anymore. We're talking about scaling that whole concept up to create these autonomous digital workers that can manage entire business workflows from start to finish. Okay, so how does this actually work in practice? Well, a digital worker can understand a task from all sorts of inputs, say an email with a spreadsheet attached. Then it can run through a whole series of steps in a workflow, and finally connect with other systems to actually get the job done. But here's the most important part, and you really gotta get this: the human in the loop. This is not about AI taking over. It's about AI becoming a force multiplier for us, with real people providing that critical oversight, making corrections, and giving strategic guidance to make sure these AI workers are doing exactly what they should be. All right, so everything we've talked about so far has been about AI in the digital world. Text, code, images, that's digital AI. But trend number 3? Whoa. This takes us into a whole new dimension, physical AI. This is all about AI models that can understand and interact with the real, 3-dimensional world all around us. We're talking about robotics. So what's the magic behind this? It's this new thing called world foundation models. Seriously, think of it like the most advanced flight simulator you can imagine, before the entire physical world. Instead of being hard-coded with rules, these AIs learn about physics and gravity and how things bump into each other by training in these incredibly detailed virtual worlds. They can try and fail and learn millions of times in a simulation, which lets them apply that knowledge to the real world. And that's why the prediction is that by 2026, we're finally going to see humanoid robots start to move out of the research labs and into commercial production. Okay, so let's tie Act 1 together with a big bow. The core idea is this: AI is evolving into a brand new kind of autonomous workforce, one that can plan, can act, and can interact with both our digital systems and more, our physical world. All right, moving on to Act 2, the invisible architecture. So if Act 1 was about the new AI workers, Act 2 is all about where these workers are going to live. We're looking at the brand new technological environment that's being built for this advanced AI workforce. The first pillar of this new architecture is something called social computing. Imagine this shared digital fabric, and it doesn't just connect AIs to other AIs, it connects them to us, to people. Inside this fabric, everyone can share information and understand each other's goals without a hitch. So a designer, a marketing AI, and a logistics bot could all work together on a product launch in real time. What you get is this incredible collective intelligence. The source actually calls it real-world swarm computing. How cool is that? Okay, let's talk about where the brain power lives right now. Today, the most powerful, heavy-duty AI models, the ones doing the really deep thinking, they all live in these gigantic, centralized cloud data centers. Basically, our phones and laptops, they're just fancy windows into that cloud. But by 2026, yeah, that's all about to change. Get ready for this. Powerful AI reasoning is coming to the edge. It's going to live right on your phone. Researchers have figured out how to take the really complex step-by-step thinking of those giant models and basically distill it down into much smaller models that can run locally, right on your own device. So why is this such a big deal? Well, the benefits are huge. For starters, it means your AI can work totally offline. No internet? No problem. It also means your personal data never has to leave your device, which, let's be honest, is a massive win for privacy. And with basically zero delay talking to a data center, it makes AI practical for those real-time, mission-critical tasks where you just can't afford a lag. So even as AI is moving onto our devices, the cloud isn't just sitting still. It's getting a whole lot smarter. And this trend is called amorphous hybrid computing. I know, it sounds complicated, but stick with me. It's basically two things happening at once. First, the AI models themselves are evolving, mixing different architectures to get more efficient. And second, the cloud's hardware is becoming this flexible mix of specialized chips, not just CPUs and GPUs, but even early-stage quantum processing units, or QPUs. The whole system will automatically figure out the best chip for any given task, which gives us a massive boost in performance. And that, believe it or not, brings us to the final piece of this new architecture. By 2026, quantum computing stops being this sci-fi thing you only hear about in labs. It actually starts becoming a practical tool that gets integrated with our classical computers to solve very specific, very hard problems. So the key takeaway here is that we're going to start seeing quantum delivering real, measurable value in a few key areas, like incredibly complex optimization problems, super advanced simulations, and high-stakes decision-making, basically tackling challenges that were just impossible for even the biggest supercomputers before. So let's sum up Act 2. The big idea is this: a totally new computing fabric is emerging. It's social, letting us collaborate with AI. It's distributed with powerful AI on our own devices. It's highly specialized for maximum efficiency. And it's being supercharged by practical quantum insights. And all of that power, all of that potential, it leads us directly into our final act, the rules of the road. Because with all this incredible new power, there's a giant question hanging over everything. How on earth are we going to trust it all? This final act is all about governance and building the foundation of trust we need for this new AI era. And listen, this is not some far-off, maybe someday discussion. Just look at this timeline, the EU AI Act. You can think of it as the GDPR, but for AI. It's already being rolled out. By the middle of 2026, it's going to be fully in effect. This is real, and it's happening right now. So what does this new rulebook actually demand from AI systems? First, you need documentation up the wazoo to prove your compliance and managing risks. Second, transparency is non-negotiable. Users have to be told when they're dealing with an AI, period. And third, something called data lineage, which means companies have to summarize where their training data came from, making sure they respect things like copyright. It's all about making AI systems auditable and traceable. So the big idea of our final act is really simple, but it's also incredibly profound. As AI's power and autonomy grow, the demand from society for real governance grows right alongside it. Trust is no longer a nice-to-have, it's a requirement. And regulations like the EU AI Act are creating a global template for rules that are built on transparency and traceability. Okay, so that brings our whole story together. When you put all the pieces together, we're looking at three huge fundamental shifts by 2026. First, AI becomes an active, autonomous workforce. Second, that workforce gets to live and operate in a brand new, interconnected computing fabric. And third, society steps in and demands a new framework of trust and governance to manage the whole thing. Wow, we have covered a ton of ground, haven't we? From digital workers all the way to quantum computing. So I want to leave you with the exact same question that our source material left us with. Looking at everything we've talked about, which one of these trends do you think will have the biggest impact by 2026? That is a perfect question to kick off your next conversation, maybe at your book club. Thanks so much for tuning in.